takes more than just being an athlete. What the parents do and how they go and put their child in a position to be seen, that is probably more important than going and being the athlete. A lot of the athletes I believe that should have been there didn't have the opportunity to get there because of not knowing what that roadmap is.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Audacious Faith Podcast, where we believe that God put us on this earth not to just merely exist, but to make a huge difference in the world. And we're excited about today's episode because we're going to be discussing something that isn't happening a lot in the country today, but it is a move. And even when it is happening, it's not happening the way it's happening here. It's usually in a much more affluent area with a very expensive program with people that can afford to pay. But we're talking about being able to reach out to just about everyone. And that's why I'm excited today. And I have two of my favorite people with me, my daughter Melody, and then also my son-in-law Siaosi. And I'm just really happy to have them with. And I know they're excited to talk about the program that we're going to be discussing today. And it's called, I'm going to let you say it, COC. What's the name of the program?
Yeah, so our sports academy is called New Life Sports Academy. And like you said, this is something that we've been thinking about for a long time, and now we're here where it's actually in action, in motion. So excited about it. And but yeah, New Life Sports Academy.
New Life Sports Academy. So we're going to get into what that is. But before we even do that, I mean, the reality is that some people would say, okay, that sounds like a great idea.
Right.
But what gives you the credibility? What gives you the experience to even be able to do something with Sports Academy? So like Mel, in your case, you were, a high school athlete, 3-time MVP in basketball. Great shooter, by the way. I coached her, so that I know. And very smart as far as the game. You played club ball before that. You had that opportunity growing up. That's an opportunity that a lot of young people don't have. So that gave you experience. I know that by the time you were playing as a freshman in high school, you had played so many games with AAU and club ball and all of that, that you were already an experienced player, unlike many of the young people in this area that we were getting. And so maybe kind of touch on that. Because you've coached a lot of players now that don't have it, what's the difference between getting an opportunity to get training, get that experience before you even get to that level versus the people that just kind of come in and basketball is new?
I think experience is huge, especially, I mean, in anything, experience is huge. If you have that experience behind you, I feel like you better know what to do when situations arise. So being able to grow up and play sports and play club at an early age, especially on a sport that I really wanted to pursue, going, to college and everything. I had that experience. I was able to learn earlier. People who start in high school, I feel like they're steps behind versus starting maybe when you're 10 or 11. Now you're trained before that, and you have an extra 2, 3, 4, 5 years on top of those people who start, maybe just in high school.
Exactly. And I remember we put you in one of those, what they called intensity fundamentals training when you were 8 years old, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And at that time, you didn't know how to do anything. I mean, you couldn't, it was crazy that you ended up being a great 3-point shooter because you couldn't shoot far at all at that particular point. We were wondering, like, what's going on? Because these girls that were smaller, littler,
Right.
they were shooting further, but that really changed
Yeah.
over the course of time and putting that work in. Okay. COC, now also you've seen that. So your sport was football.
Right.
And, you were a college athlete, even went to the pro level.
Right.
But again, what have you noticed when it comes to getting some extra help, being able to have that advantage versus not?
Well, a little different, than Mel, and she was able to start a lot younger. So I didn't put a helmet on until I got into high school. So now that everything has come full circle with us being able to start this academy, I understand the value of having that edge, and that's what we're providing, is being able to give those kids a D1 experience
Sure.
at the age that Mel started. And we know that the earlier we get a start on something, sometimes it gives us an edge. Most times it gives us an edge if we stay consistent in the right things. So, but for me, like I said, I didn't put on a helmet until I got into high school. And I started to realize real fast how much I needed to put in work to hang with these guys that were a lot smaller than me, but been playing the game a lot longer than me.
Sure.
Um, and just understanding that size wasn't everything. I was a big kid that didn't have an understanding of what football was when I first started. So with that being said, now that I know that what we're providing, I'm like, man, if I had this type of start, what kind of player would I have been? Now things have played out and I was blessed to be able to, experience the D1 level and professional level. But
Sure.
what about the masses? This is something that we talk about, and Mel and I always talk about this, the statistics of even getting to the level that we got to. It's less than 2% to go. All the athletes that are out there, less than 2% get that opportunity. And with the school, we're able to bring that now with the experience that we have, to bring that to now kids that say they want to go into this path, or say they want to take this path. Obviously, that's just a small part of it all.
Sure.
But getting an early start on it is definitely going to help the kids. Is it the whole picture? Definitely not. There's a whole roadmap that a lot of parents don't know much about. And that's another half of why we started this, was to make sure that, the best recruiters for your kids are the parents.
Right.
I look back at and we talked about this before, we look back at our journey, and our parents were a huge part of why we got to where we were at. If not more than, the God-given talent that we were given. We don't know what these kids are going to be, but we know that the parents are there to support them, and we want to make sure that that roadmap and that decision of taking that path, they understand not just what it takes as being an athlete, but more importantly, the student part. Being able to educate them on the qualifications to even be ready to go to that next level.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that, like what you're bringing up. I only know
Right.
from experience with Mel, is that, I mean, she was winning MVP every year. We had a good record, but we weren't a really highly recognized school
Right.
because of where it was. She was ranked high as far as statistics in CIF, and yet nobody was coming to talk to her. Nobody was. We were doing film. We were, sending out stuff like this, and had highlight reels, which are still on YouTube at this point. And literally we had to finally, because what would happen is certain schools would just assume somebody that she was already going somewhere, and then other schools, so nobody was actually talking to her.
Right.
Until finally, when she ended up playing at LA Valley College, which was, I'll let her talk about that in a moment, was a great experience. But we had to actually talk to the coach. The coach had come and saw the game, saw her playing well, never talked to her because she just assumed she was going somewhere else.
Wow.
And so the parents do need to definitely be involved. Now, when you went and had that opportunity then to go and get in coaching that you pick and everything is also very important. When you went to, for instance, LA Valley College, your game went to a whole new level. Why was that?
Well, I had a coach who, really believed that everything that you do, on the court really correlates to everything outside of the court, even when it comes to like your career later on in life. So she really taught us like, way you do one thing is how you do everything. So when you're on this court, even if it's just practice, give it everything that you have. Going through club and high school, I feel like there are some times where I could be lazy. But when it came to, playing at LA Valley College, I could not be lazy, or we were on the line running. And I hate running, if I'm being honest. So I would do whatever it took to make sure that, if I wasn't on the line running or making our team run. And it really came down to, discipline and doing things day in and day out. And it really drove me to want to be better. I was in the gym before anyone else. I was there before using their shooting machine, their gun, which I didn't have in high school. So now being a shooter and having a gun that's going to rebound for me, it was awesome. So I wanted to be in there early, and then, being, doing all those things, and then being able to play and see the results was cool. So it just made me want to go, stronger and harder. And that really came from her just, setting a standard up front, that this is what the expectation is. If you don't meet it, you're not going to play. And that's really what it came down to.
So we bring that up because who's coaching you, who's instructing you,
Right.
what they know is very important. A lot of people go in programs, but the programs may be just average as far as the experience of what a person has. Now, I know, Siaosi, before this dream of the New Life Sports Academy came up, for several years now, you've been doing something called Amped Up,
Yes.
which is camps like on certain days,
Right.
certain weekends, which really wasn't charging the kids really anything, right? You
Yeah.
guys were just pretty much doing it because you wanted to pour into kids. Maybe share that background of where that's coming from and how it tied in.
Right. So that's our nonprofit. It's Amped Up. We started this almost 10 years ago. And it's exactly that. Every camp that we've ever thrown has been free. And now that we've built it to where we're at now, essentially what we're doing is bringing high level coaching to, all those underserved and people that are privileged to be able to go to these big time camps. But that was a big thing for us, was to make sure we came back to places that we came from. Also to relate to what Mel was talking about as far as the school that she went to. We weren't a big school. I went to South Hills, and according to all the schools that you know that played around us, we weren't the best. But giving people avenues and knowing, like, hey, whatever level of football you come from, or whatever sport you come from, whatever level, if you understand the roadmap, you can be seen by whoever that may be. But going back to Amped Up, that was something that now we've built into being able to travel from state to state. We went to Texas last year, Utah. This next coming year, we're going to Chicago. And being able to take that, we've even went to Germany before, and just bringing the love of the game, what it taught us. We weren't 5-star recruits. We weren't guys that were over there getting all the stars. We were actually on the lower level of that. So earning our way to those places, and we got influenced by these big camps, and we had to go. I remember my mom having to raise money, do food plate sales for us to go and attend these big time camps. And we've been working the last 10 years to build those relationships, to have big camps that are free, that still have that level of coaching. And we've been blessed to have, people that are now supporting the vision, so where now we could pay for high level coaches to come and be respected for their time as we're going and giving this fulfillment. It gives us fulfillment, but now we can bring that to the kids that might not be able to afford it like how we did.
Okay.
So that's really what that's been in the last 10 years.
So that ties in now to the New Life Sports Academy.
Yeah.
Because that was something that, as great as it is, it's isolated Saturdays, it's isolated weekends here and there. And now you're talking about the vision of what would happen if your child, if your student that wants to have a future in sports, because sports is a big deal now. There's all the NIL deals. There's a lot of, you can be making money even if you don't go pro or before you go pro.
Yeah.
So now it changes the whole game. And the vision I know that came in is, what if we were able to give training every morning, pretty much all throughout the week, still do the academics, still stress it, build in the character development at the same time, just the whole total package. Instead of isolated trainings here and there, what if it could be consistent and compound week after week after week? So you guys took a big step of faith to come in here and say, we're going to start this sports academy, having basically no enrollees, and just said, we're going to do it, right?
Yes.
What were you thinking when I know this was really an idea that was in Siosi's head, and was there a place where you're thinking, okay, well, I support him, but he's half crazy, or what?
I thought it was really cool and exciting to do. As an athlete, I feel like it's a cheat code for you. While everyone else is in class, you're working, you're doing weights, you're lifting, you're doing whatever it is towards your sport. So as being an athlete myself, I thought it was super cool. Didn't know if it would actually happen. It was something that was thrown out there, but it was like, okay, like, how are we going to actually do this? So obviously it comes back to the drawing board, but definitely supportive, and it's something that we're glad and happy that we could do together. And it came together. And I remember our first week, we looked at each other, was like, oh shoot, like, it actually happened, like, we're doing it.
Right.
And so it's just the beginning, and it's been so much fun so far. So I could only imagine 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now what it's going to look like.
Sure, as it builds up, and you guys have already seen some progress in the athletes that you have, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
And it's so much bigger than just the sport, like student athletes and understanding the whole totality of what it is to even be a student athlete. We live in a world now where everything gets fluffed by the screen.
Sure.
So a lot of these guys that come into the academy, they have their own understanding of what a student athlete is. And now, with us being able to work together, we get to break that down to the foundation and now realize or make them realize and understand what it is to truly be a student athlete and hold those standards, because a lot of these guys didn't even know what it was to be eligible to get into the next level, or what it is to, what kind of grade point average do you need to keep for you to even be eligible at a high school that you go to,
Right.
and being able to understand that as the athlete, it really now shifts their whole mindset of understanding, like, okay, I am separated from the masses, of understanding that this is a path that a few people walk to the highest level. Like I said before, less than 2% get to where we've been blessed to walk.
Sure.
So it is a different walk. It is a different understanding. But they get to learn that now in a place that is now influenced by people that have actually walked it, and not people that, you know, think they understand,
Right.
and that's a cool experience that they're getting the full circle. We get to see now what it's like to watch ourselves essentially go through this process. And now, as they're going and being hungry for that next level, it's being able to fill in those spaces like, hey, we have a certain GPA we have to keep. For now, for example, there's some of the kids, we did a grade check, and some of the kids now are on academic probation. So we do conditioning study hall. Conditioning study hall. I remember being at Utah, and I had to do, 6 a.m.s for a couple of weeks until things got back into order.
Right.
And those are just the foundational principles that we're instilling in these guys at a younger age, 10, 11, 12, 13. By the time they get to high school, where, performance actually matters, the whole student parts are already instilled. So
Right. Good habits being built, right?
exactly.
So you have a situation, maybe, a lot of people are hearing sports academy,
Right.
but then you're saying student athlete. So maybe let's paint the picture. What's a typical schedule of a day? I don't know which one of you wants to answer that.
All right. So a typical day, we'll start at 7:45 a.m. Okay. And then we'll hit the gym. Class starts, essentially, that would be class 1, 8 o'clock. And 8 o'clock would be weight room. And that's, position specific or sports specific, depending if, we have football players, we have basketball players, and now we have a volleyball player. So being able to tailor that into their workout, and then that's an hour. So at 9 o'clock, we'll be done, and then we'll hit the field or the court, depending on the sport that they're in. And we'll do that for an hour, another hour as well, where now we're doing position specifics. So the first 2 hours of their day, if I had to paint that comparison to a D1 school, we would have 6 a.m.s, obviously, but this is within the grade levels that we have. So we start at 8 o'clock, but that would be the exact same thing that we would do at that level. 6 a.m. we start, we do an hour and a half practice, and then we hit class. Whereas this, now we're doing it at 8. By 9:15, we're already by or 9:15 to 10, or yeah, 9:15 to 10:15, that would be the field. And then from there they would transition into now their classes.
Right.
Which would happen in college as well. You would transition from going to morning practice to now you're hitting your class schedule. And then after that, that would be that day. They would do their classes after. And then just holding those standards of understanding, like, hey, we have a certain GPA, and understanding student athlete before anything else. So, but yeah, typically that's what it would be. And class gets out at 3:15. So from 7:45 to 3:15, that's our day right there, full schedule. And remember, this is kids that are transitioning into that level of understanding how it works. So
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. So how does it seem to be working so far? I know you said you guys are tweaking some great things and all of that, but what do you think when you see it on a daily? Have you been seeing progress that they've been making already? And I know that also you guys build in the character development, the mentality of the game, not just the fundamentals of it, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been, super awesome. We did fitness testing the first week, and then a month later we did progress to see, how much they've maybe grown or whatever that is. And, they really progressed so much. And it was really cool to see because it's like, okay, it's working. We're helping them. They're getting better. They are getting progressing in, whether that's the weight room or on the field or on the court. So seeing progress, and now it's like they're more excited too to be there now that they saw that, hey, like it actually worked, like I got stronger. So now I feel like they're working harder because they're like, okay, if we work hard, like we're gonna get better. The first couple of weeks I think they were kind of hesitant, like, okay, maybe it's working, but once they saw that progress, it was, super cool to see for us as well
Yeah.
because you could see their mindset, their, shift. So now they're working hard, and, they work very, very hard in the gym and on the court. Maybe that's just a standard that we set, but, you know, they work very hard, and it's cool to see them do that each and every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. So you, Siaosi, I think, is it one or two of the guys that you have actually play on your son's?
Yeah, so one of the kids that we have, one of the linemen, he actually plays on my son's 13U team. So
Okay.
I get to see that full transfer. I see the full picture of being able to see what he's doing on a day-to-day basis, and then being able to see it come to fruition at practice later on that day.
Right.
So he's getting that full experience of going, now I'm training, going to school, and then he goes right back to practice at the end of the day. And to be able to see it transition, he starts on our team and he's a really good player. Um, and to be able to see his gears start turning and understanding, like, okay, this is a lifestyle. And essentially that's what we're teaching these guys, like, hey, this is not just a fun game anymore. That's the default of what we're doing. We get to
Right.
play the game that we love.
Sure.
Now we're pouring the foundation of this lifestyle that we are saying we want to take. I get careful with how I say it because some people, you know will join an academy having big time expectations. As a coach, we can't promise that to any parent
Sure.
because we don't know what the next 5 to 10 years is going to look like for them. But what we can bring to the table is letting them know that, hey, the fundamental principles of what it is to be a student athlete will be instilled. Discipline, understanding that that matters. Being a good student, understanding that I got to hit certain grades. If I want to do this lifestyle, this has to be on a consistent basis.
Right.
And it's a lot deeper for me personally because this is the way God's using us to minister. The kids that we're working with, and being able to understand, like, hey guys, the default is the sport. Everything else is the foundation. We got to go and build this one brick at a time. And it's cool to watch their gears start turning because now it's like their eyes are widening, like, oh my gosh, now I understand why. Now, do they understand it fully as we continue to go? This is just year one, first couple of
Sure.
months. Now, it's cool to understand as coaches, as there's more to dive into, that they're hungry and that they're coming back and saying, okay, not only am I seeing this lifestyle transition into my sport, but now it's overflowing into the way they study. It's overflowing into the way they hold themselves accountable, even when they do things wrong. They'll come and be like, hey, I didn't do this right. Or I know I didn't do this right because of this. And that's just because of the principles that we're instilling in them. Understanding what true accountability is, what having true character is, what having true integrity is as a player, as a student, and being able to watch that all unfold is like the blessing. As we talked about, God's using us to minister through this, way of life. And
Right.
it's cool because we walked it, you know. And now it's like we're watching ourselves and all those little pieces that we're like, hey, I remember what that was like. Let me fill in that piece and let them know why. I know what God's put me through to be able to give them that piece of wisdom. Now we get to fill in those little pieces so that they can see a bigger picture.
Sure.
So,
Well, it seems like the biblical principle of whatever's been instilled in you now, pass that on to
Right.
faithful others that'll be able to then teach others. Eventually, they'll be teaching others
Right.
after they've gone through their journey. And this mentality and everything that's going on. I know, Mel, we've talked about this. This would apply to football as well, and I know you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is a question we've stressed many times through the years because we've coached together as well and all of that. What's the difference? I'm going to let you answer this. What's the difference between playing basketball and being a basketball player?
I've definitely played with both and I've coached both.
Mhm.
I think at the end of the day, a basketball player just comes in, wants to have fun with their friends. It's something that they do that it's kind of like a hobby, versus
Playing basketball?
playing basketball,
Playing
sorry.
basketball, yeah.
Playing basketball. And then, you get your basketball players. Those are the people who are, working outside of practice. Those are the people who are putting in the work, when no one's watching. And I think it's a huge difference. Like I said, I've played with both, I coached both. And the ones who just play basketball are really just there for their
Right.
friends or the fun. And the ones who are actually basketball players, I feel, are the ones that are trying to get somewhere, on the next level with it. Those are the ones who are going to be pissed off if we lose,
Yeah.
Those are the ones who are going to, give it everything that they have on the court. And so I definitely think it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I would say, going along with what you said, because you said when nobody's watching and putting in the work.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so the basketball player is the person that when they're doing the left-handed layup drill and the coach isn't watching, they still go up with their left hand.
Yeah.
Right? Or the others, when nobody's watching, I'm just going to go up with the right.
Yeah.
It's that ethic, right? How does
Yeah.
that translate? You've seen that in football too, right?
Yeah, football. So for me, I'll speak on O-line, which is I played that. So for me, it's understanding the ones that will finish through the whistle instead of just getting their job done enough. There's especially nowadays, there's a lot of guys that, like I said, it seems like a lot of people have a false understanding of what it is to play at a high level. And when they get a coach that actually knows how it is to play at that high level, to push them to that limit that they never got pushed to, now it's like, oh, this is what it is. This is what it is to finish. When in reality, their understanding of what finish was just that first initial, 2 seconds of the play, when we got to be able to hold that for 20 seconds if we need to. And to have that mentality built into them and showing them what it looks like. A lot of these guys don't even know what it was to even understand what finish means.
Right.
Their understanding of what finish is nothing compared. It's the reason why there is the 2% that only make it, less than
Sure.
2%. And when we have somebody that can show them that can consistently show them that, now it's like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new meaning of what I thought finish even looks like. So for an O lineman, instead of just going and blocking the right guy, you didn't do anything technically wrong. But how do we now take that to the next level to where now you're popping out on film? That's called finishing. Let me drive this guy 5 yards back. And if I get blessed to pancake him, put some syrup on it, and that's falling on him, or, whatever that may be. But, little things like that. It's the small things, the details, because football, and I could probably safely assume that basketball, those drills they stay the same all the way through to the top level. And the only difference between the ones that are in high school and the ones that are at the top level is, one, they can collapse the time frame, and doing what a 2-hour practice is, now it comes down into a 30 to 45 minute, focus, locked in, and understanding that, hey, this is a lifestyle, and that lifestyle built it to now to collapse that time frame to a 45-minute workout of the same drills that we do in high school.
Right.
But now, because you understand your body, you understand this lifestyle at the highest level, and then on top of that, you're getting paid for that. But to bring it back to the high school level, it's just those details of understanding, like, okay, I didn't even understand what true finishing was. And when you get that and you click and push that button, now the gears start going faster, and they're like, oh my gosh. And now they start to see a new version of themselves that they never knew existed, because they're getting it from someone that's walked, that lifestyle, to be able to paint the picture of what they could
Right.
be, and it's not coming off of, YouTube videos. But
Well, I'm going to direct this one to you as
Yeah.
well. A lot of people that are hearing this right now might say, well, to me, sports are not that big of a deal.
Right.
They get emphasized way too much. It's really about academics. It's about, all the schoolwork. And we're not saying it's not.
Right.
But at the same time, I know, coaching many years myself, I had this discussion with so many parents. And it's like, well, their grades are kind of marginal, so I want them not to play so that they can focus more on the grades. And I would have discussions with parents where I would say, you realize that the sport, because they want to play it, in this particular child's case, may be the only thing that's keeping the grade up where it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it would backfire when they pull out and they'd have no reason to do anything. and everything would just go downhill from that point. It's a discipline. Obviously, academics are a discipline. Sports are a discipline. Where do you see, because you guys can both answer this, where do you see the value? I mean, as far as working with others, teammates, people depending on you, you having to come through that, following a plan, following instructions, because you have to follow what the coach says, even if you think something different. What are some of the life lessons that sports really, because some of the most successful people in the business world and
Right.
everything out there were athletes.
Yeah.
So why is that?
Well, for me, sports really made me realize that it wasn't about me. So when I joined a team, if I ever had a student like that, it's kind of just understanding that, hey, it's easier to let ourselves down.
Yeah.
It's easy to be like, all right, I could pull myself away from the situation. But when you start to draw the picture of you letting somebody else down, then all of a sudden they start looking like, oh my gosh, I don't want to let my brother down. It's easier to be like, oh, I'm gonna quit, if nobody's watching, nobody's holding me accountable, but when you have brothers around you, you have sisters around you that are working with you, blood, sweat, and tears with you, and now you did something selfish, because ultimately that's what it is. You
Right.
did something selfish, and now because of that, that's getting revealed. And as far as being able to go and attack that on how to fix that, everybody has their own way of doing it, but essentially it stands true. You let other people down.
Mhm.
And it was bigger than you from the beginning. There's no team, all right, that puts, there's no person that puts themselves before the team. And that's what we're trying to, make sure that these guys understand, that as we take this path, it's really not about us. It's by understanding that we're a part of this bigger picture.
Right.
And when we understand that that bigger picture depends on us handling what we need to handle when nobody's watching, then that's when that gets deeply rooted in your heart. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to let my brothers down. When I think about it, I'm like, man, I don't want to let my brother Isaac down. I don't want to let my brother, JT down. I don't want to let my brother CJ down, Senny down, Nate down. These are all boys that I, had blood, sweat, and tears. And if they can do it, I know that I got to do it. And if I don't do it, ultimately, if nobody's telling you, it's a selfish move.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Mel, you touched on this earlier when you were talking about running in practice
Yeah.
and the running back and forth. And I remember actually kind of visiting and seeing a couple of those practices, knowing after coaching you in high school, running lines, running back and forth, all that stuff was not your favorite. Okay. But you touched on it earlier. You said, I knew I had to get the best jump. I had to get the best start. I had to go as fast as I could, because if I didn't, then my team would be running more.
Mm.
Right.
Yep.
And you didn't want to cause your team to have to run more. So you did the things that you needed to do. Would you, I'm assuming if it was just you would not have run as hard and would not have run as fast.
Oh yeah, definitely not. The same thing with that coach is sometimes if like it wasn't working, she would put that person who was making that mistake on the sideline and make everyone else run. And
Yeah.
I remember one time I was on the sideline watching everyone run, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Are y'all
it-
glaring at you when they're
like I was like, this sucks. Like I never want to put my team in that position again. But if it was just for me, maybe I wouldn't have done it as hard. But when you have, a team, like you said, that's watching you and that's relying on you, and at the end of the day is, maybe even looking up to you, that's when
Right.
I really feel like it pushed me even harder.
Yeah, I think that's the value of a team in anything,
Yeah.
because very few people are disciplined enough to go to the
Mhm.
highest level alone.
Right.
No matter how hard they try.
Yeah.
And so even if it's training, even if it's athletic training, whatever, when you're with 2, 3 other people, you tend to just, I mean, I know I do.
Yeah.
I will push, I will do more reps, I will do higher than I am if I just go in myself.
Mhm.
And there are people that can just do it on their own to a level, but it's rare. It's rare, to get the maximum level. So this is really valuable, because I know there's people that are being like, oh, it's just sports, who
Yeah.
cares about sports? It's all, my kid ain't going to be a Division I. But even so, the life lessons
Yeah.
that they learn are incredible. So why, with New Life Sports Academy, I mean, this is a faith show.
Right.
So, I mean, there's athletic programs that are out there. But we've already touched on part of the reason you do this is because a lot of the programs that are out there are much more unaffordable.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to touch everybody. But we also, in this case, have the faith aspect that comes in. I know this is something that's also on the daily,
Yeah.
right? So, Siaosi, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So, like I said, God kind of put us in a position to, or God put us in a position to be able to allow us to minister through the things that we've gone through in life. And as we started this, Mel and I made sure that, this was something that we wanted God to use us to, spread his word and spread his gospel. So every day after we're done training, we'll have a devotional right after.
Sure.
So, for anybody that's an athlete, they can understand this. When you're going and running and getting yourself sweating, and you start to get into this mindset of just thinking clearly.
Sure.
And when we get to that place physically, that opens up the spiritual, that opens up the mental in a whole different way.
Right.
And what a better way for us to go and end all of that and just continue to throw the seeds in these young men and young women's hearts as they go and become the athlete and the student, or the student athlete that God called them to be, or just the person. Going back to what you were talking about, majority of these kids are not going to make it to the 2%. And that's the truth that not everybody wants to talk about because it stings a little bit.
Right.
But the things that we were talking about as far as the life lessons that come from this, that's another big reason why we wanted to do this, because we understand what those principles have done for our lives and how it transitioned into everyday life.
Right.
So as we go and do that, we get to watch these kids grow in all different phases, not just the physical, the mental, but more importantly, the spiritual and the relationship that they have with Jesus Christ,
Absolutely.
and that's been the biggest, blessing for us, is to watch God tie it all full circle as we get to do the things that we love to do. Not a lot of people are blessed to be able to do that, and we don't want to take that for granted. So we will do our job in spreading that every time we get and every chance we get. So that's been fun.
Well, we're in the infant stages of this program. I mean, just a few months in, starting from nothing, as we mentioned. And as you guys have already kind of touched on, we're mostly focusing right now on football, basketball. You said volleyball is kind of coming into the play as well.
Right.
All very popular sports. And I would say that what are some of the biggest challenges right now? Obviously, when a stopped car doesn't have momentum, so it needs, and you're starting from no movement to trying to get it going. So what are some of the biggest challenges that the program is facing currently that people can pray about, that people can support, to help this program grow?
Yeah. So as far as for prayers, obviously just being able to get the word out there, and obviously knowing that we exist, and we are the most accessible. Not a lot of people could say that, but we wanted to do that in that aspect for it. So, um, being the most accessible academy around here, we just are looking for more resources. Really, people that want to come and help us in any way, shape, or form, whether that's helping us, um, get the word out, or helping us go and make donations, whatever that may be. We like to have an open book of where those things go to. People understand where those donations will go to,
Right.
and being able to show these families of what we're trying to build here. But yeah, that would be the biggest thing for resources. God has us on a really good path right now. So as far as I don't want to be bashful or anything like that, but if it was one thing, it would be resources for us to continue to grow this.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And we're going to be posting a link, by the
Yeah.
way, which is going to have where people can just kind of do the QR code. It's going to be on the screen. It's probably on the screen right now.
Right.
And, they're going to be able to just take your phone if you're watching it on something not on the phone or wherever it is, or
Right.
and kind of access. And we'll also have the link in the bio. And that goes to a fundraising page where a
Yep.
person can give one time, a person can do recurring.
Yes.
Maybe a person says, hey, I believe in this. I can only give like $20 a month. But hey, God's going to take everything. The boy in the Bible with 5 loaves and 2 fish, look
Yeah.
what God did with that. So whatever it is that God gives you, that's what he asks.
Yeah.
And whatever he's laying on your heart, that, as the word gets out, will multiply and then allow you to reach and impact more and more lives. And these are not isolated times. We're talking 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And in some cases, when they're playing somewhere else too, we're talking 6.
Yeah.
So, a huge influence. Let me just touch on this as we kind of wrap it up at this particular point. Mel, think for a second. If you didn't get those extra opportunities that you got, basketball became such a big, major, fun, rewarding part of your life, the competition, all the lessons you learned. And then, you played at LA Valley, and then you went on to Hope International as well. You got to play there. All of those experiences. Let's say, we found a way to make it happen, but the program like this would have been way better
Yeah.
back then
Yeah.
to have that opportunity. But let's say you didn't get any of that. How do you think, looking back, and if you did it all again and go, oh, you're not going to have any of that, how would you feel not having those experiences?
Yeah, I definitely think I would have been, set back a whole lot. I started club at 9 years old. So from then just to high school, that's 5 years where I'm playing, multiple times a day or multiple times a week, playing in multiple games a month, tournaments after tournaments, playing club, but also playing in another league as well.
Right.
So having all these opportunities, I think if I didn't have those, I still probably might have went and played at the next level, but, who knows, I like to think I'm a very determined person, so I might have done it anyways, but, having that opportunity, really, I think set me up for success moving forward.
Well, seeing it firsthand, I can tell you, I'm not going to rule out that you could have gone and played college, but I will tell you it would have been much more difficult.
Oh, for sure.
And considering clutch shots and things that you were doing in your freshman year in high school, because you had already played more games than most people played in their whole high school career coming
Right.
in,
Yeah.
I will tell you that I know that wouldn't have been happening the
Yep.
way that it
Yeah.
was happening at that point. So definitely would have changed your life. And of course, a lot of the lessons that you learn now, you're able to apply to so much more than athletics.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so how about you? You started in high
Yeah.
school, but then you did get opportunities. Let's say who is Siaosi without that team experience, without those football experiences,
Right.
without all of that? Who are you at that point?
Nothing really. But going back to the whole, if I had to go back and think about it, it took a team for me to get to where I was at. Because some people give me so much praise of like, oh man, you never put on a helmet till high school. But with that, now that I'm a parent myself and our son's going through that process, soon to be, God willing, I understand now how much it took on the back end of my parents doing all of these things that I didn't see as an athlete, but they did and handled so that I can focus on being an athlete. And that's why this is all coming full circle now for me because now we can, I honestly believe that the best athletes never touch the football field because of lack of opportunities, such as having a sports academy that can educate them, or just forget about the academy, somebody to teach them what the roadmap is to actually have an opportunity to get there. And with that being said, it's just going back to know if I had to go back, you know, I would now break it down to understand that it takes more than just being an athlete. What the parents do and how they go and put their child in a position to be seen. That is probably more important than going and being the athlete, because like I said before, I stand true on this. A lot of the athletes I believe that should have been there didn't have the opportunity to get there because of not knowing what that roadmap is. Do you know what clearinghouse is? Do you know what eligibility courses look like, core classes, test scores? Whereas all of that gets kind of fluffed right now within the last 5 years of NIL deals happening. I'm not saying that it's bad, it's here. And it's a beautiful thing. I know if I was back in college, I would love to have an NIL deal.
Sure.
But we are here and the game is transitioning, but the principles of everything still stands true.
Right.
And we want to make sure that you guys, as far as whoever that is that we come across, they understand what that genuine roadmap will look like. Not promising anything because it's, like I said before, 2%, less than 2% actually get that opportunity. But do you even know what that roadmap looks like to even start the path that we're walking on? Whereas I feel like there's a lot of people out there just walking blindly. So if I had to go back to just tie it full circle again, that team of understanding that yes, our child is that center focal point, but there's so much things on the outside that are happening that a lot of parents don't know about just because of the lack of resources out there,
Right.
or not even knowing where to go. Or you put all of that into the hands of the coach that they have now that might not have that understanding of what that roadmap looks like. And I love coaching, but just understanding what that is.
You just brought something to my mind, kind of a memory from way back from when I went to school, which obviously was a long time ago. But I remember it being in like junior high, middle school, like a lot of the young athletes that you guys are dealing with right now. And I remember some fantastic athletes in middle school, way more athletic than I was. I mean, I was amazed at the athletic ability that they had. And now I think about some of them, and I remember seeing them in high school, and they weren't even on the team
Hmm.
because they didn't know how to keep their grades up.
Right.
They didn't know how to study. They didn't have support. They didn't have any of those things that you guys are trying to pour into these young athletes to prepare them every single day. And I thought exactly what you said. Many of the best athletes never touched the field.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the opportunity. They couldn't be eligible. They couldn't, and it was sad because they could have excelled and really had a different life. A lot of them just ended up kind of wasting away and doing nothing.
Right.
You're doing a program here in Faith that you started in Faith where we're basically turning nobody away,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if the money's there, it's not, we're not charging that much to begin with.
Yeah.
But even if it's not, we're not saying, oh, then forget it.
Right.
You know, that's why we're looking for support from people that are out there saying, hey, I don't want that kid that has that promise to never get to touch the field.
Right.
I don't want them to never get the opportunity to succeed in life. What a huge difference can be made, and we're called to make a difference.
Yeah.
Jesus, who did he say? Who did he always hold at high esteem? Children,
Yeah.
right? Children and young people. And he always said, don't tell them not to come here. They're of such and such the kingdom of heaven. That's the opportunity that's here.
Yeah.
And so tying that all in as we finish up, is there anything else either of you want to say kind of to anyone who's listening out there that's still just kind of wondering, what God would have them do on this?
Yeah. Don't even think about the sports. Like, take all of that off and away and just understand what we're bringing as far as the foundation, the discipline, the character, the integrity, Christ-like centered or Christ-centered environment. Those are all things that really what is being taught here.
Yeah.
Now, the default and the plus side of all of that is becoming that student athlete that you want your child to be. Now, we can't promise you anything in the future. Neither will we ever promise you anything in the future. But the one thing that we can tell you is that we will instill discipline and structure into their lives in a Christ-centered environment. And that right there, I think every parent is truly saying when they're saying that they want to put them into a place that can give them a better opportunity. Because that right there is going to overflow, and that's timeless. Everybody's going to have to hang up the cleats. Everybody's going to have to hang up the shoes at one point or another. But those foundational principles will stay true all the way to the end, and I think you can back me up with that. So
Absolutely. In fact, Mel, I'm going to let you finish with this because we coached together. And I know for the last 8 years when we were coaching, one of the greatest experiences that we had wasn't necessarily the wins and losses,
right.
but it was some of the character that we were able to see and build in some of the young athletes that we had, that we consider at this point, when they graduated, we consider them people that we love very much and are friends at this point.
Right.
So tying that all in, how do you see that value and that opportunity to do that every day here?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to coaching a team, you only get them a certain maybe 2 hours a day. Here, we're with them all throughout school. So if we can make an impact in 2 hours a day, just imagine how much of an impact we can make when we're here, 8 hours a day?
Right.
So it's super cool, to be able to have that opportunity. And, like you said, it's cool to be able to see people grow, and, build confidence, instill confidence in them, and just see how much of a, awesome person they could really, really be when they realize how, just amazing they are.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So what is the best way for people that are out there right now, and besides clicking on the link and becoming a supporter, which then we'll have your email address, we'll have your information to be able to give you updates. We even have some incentives on that site that if you're going to be a monthly supporter at a certain level, we want to give you some shirts or some different things that go along with the program as a token of our appreciation for your support. But what would be the best way other than that, if they're just inquiring more, to get in touch with either one of you or both?
Yeah, any social media platforms that we have, Instagram, Facebook, we're very active on both of those. Just getting all of our information out there. We've been blessed to have everything resourced to us to this point. So, um, we're always open to have any type of help and being able to show you guys where all of that is going to be in the academy and how it's going to help the kids. But yeah, any social media platforms, like I said, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll have the handles up there.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're just grateful. We say thank you beforehand. So
And this is just the first one. This is going to build. I mean, we're going on faith here, but the vision, when God lays a vision out, this one's going to build up, and eventually there's going to be more branches of this, and
yeah,
it's going to go out more. And so down the line, I mean, those of you who are watching this now, realize that this is something that God's planted a vision, and He's going to do some awesome things. You can be a part of it. If you can't be a part of it financially, please at least be a prayerful supporter
yeah,
of what God is doing, because that is huge as well. And we definitely need that. So make sure you get in contact, pray on this, and spread the word to others that might actually have an interest in this as well. And if you are here in Southern California, near where we are in the San Gabriel Valley, and you have students or families or people that you know of in this area, we'd love to see about them becoming a part of New Life Sports Academy.
yeah.
So this has been the Audacious Faith podcast, where we have the audacity to believe God didn't just put us here to exist. We're going to make a huge difference in the world. That's what we've talked about today, and that's what He wants to do in your world as well. May God bless you, and we'll see you next time.